Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're diving into something we all use every single day, plural nouns. English is a bit of a linguistic melting pot, which means our rules for multiplying words range from simple, clear logic to outright rebellion. We're going to take this step by step, starting from the absolute basics and working our way up to the trickiest anomalies in the language. If you've ever found yourself second-guessing how to multiply a word, or you just kind of wondered why our grammar works the way it does, well, you are in the right place. Let's dive into this.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering the basics of plurals, the standard S and ES, the tricky Y rule, the F sound swap, and finally, the rule breakers.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the basics of plurals, defining the terms.
So what actually is a plural noun? At its core, it just means we are talking about more than one thing, person, animal, or place. Sounds incredibly simple, right? But honestly, this little concept is the absolute bedrock for all the linguistic architecture we are about to explore. It's the tool we reach for when just one isn't enough, and it actually forces the other words in a sentence to adapt to accommodate that multiplicity.
Now notice the immediate shift in the words we use around the noun itself. Singular nouns demand an A or an an, and remember, you use an if the next word begins with a vowel sound. But the absolute second we cross into plural territory, boom, we drop A and an completely. It's a really strict boundary. They are exclusively for singular nouns, acting as these little markers for a quantity of exactly one. Recognizing this shift in articles is your very first clue that you've entered the plural domain.
Moving right along to Section 2, the standard S and ES, the foundational rule.
To make a noun more than one, the vast majority of the time, you literally just add an S to the end. It is the default setting of the English language. When your brain is moving fast in conversation, this is the shortcut it naturally takes, and for good reason. It's highly efficient. You take a root word, you slap an S on it, and instantly, everyone listening knows you've multiplied the subject. It's elegant in its total simplicity.
But you know, it's actually really easy to overcomplicate this default setting. Take the word bag. A super common urge is to add an ES to soften the ending, spelling it out as B-A-G-E-S. But bag is just a standard noun. You just add an S to make bags. Keeping it simple is almost always the correct move here. We tend to second-guess ourselves, especially when writing, looking for some complex rule where none actually exists. If a noun comfortably takes an S without twisting your tongue, you're good to go.
However, English wouldn't be English without a few curveballs. If a noun ends in certain sounds, like shish, chi, si, or z, we can't just stick an S on the end because it becomes physically impossible to pronounce. I mean, try saying bus or church, it just doesn't work. So instead of struggling, we have to add an ES to create a completely new, distinct syllable. It's a brilliant mechanical adaptation designed to make words roll off the tongue naturally.
Okay, Section 3, the tricky Y rule. When to drop the Y.
Let's solve the mini mystery of what happens when a noun ends in the letter Y. You can't just look at the Y itself. You have to look at the letter sitting immediately before it. Step 1. Check if there is a consonant before the Y, like the letter B in the word baby. If there is, Step 2 is to take away the Y entirely, just axe it. Then Step 3, you add IES. So the word baby transforms beautifully into babies. It's a complete three-step transformation.
But here is the catch that trips up so many people. We just learned that a consonant before a Y means dropping the Y and adding IES. But what if the letter right before the Y is a vowel? Think of the word toy. Well, that whole complex three-step rule gets thrown completely out the window. You simply add an S to get toys. That single preceding letter dictates the entire transformation. It's a perfect example of how hyper-observant we have to be. A tiny detail can completely rewrite the formula.
So we've conquered the Y, but that brings up a really interesting phonetic puzzle. What on earth happens when a noun ends with a harsh F sound?
That brings us perfectly to Section 4, the F sound swap, dealing with F sounds.
When you encounter a noun ending with an F sound, the structure completely changes once again. You don't just add letters, you add VES. Why? Because it naturally softens the word. The language requires a shift not just in spelling, but in the actual physical way your mouth forms the sound. We transition from a sharp F to a much smoother V, making the word flow significantly better in spoken dialogue.
Let's look at the word life. If you just leave the F and add an S, making it lifes, it feels clunky, right? It forces this awkward stop in your breath. The correct grammatical move is to drop that F entirely, swap it out, and add VES to get lives.
By totally swapping the consonant, the language ensures that as the word multiplies, it remains really melodic and fluid to the human ear.
And finally, we've arrived at Section 5, the rule breakers, irregular plurals.
After carefully building all this logical architecture, the S's, the ES's, the IES's, the VS's, we hit a fantastic reality of the language. Some nouns just go totally rogue. They ignore everything we've just established. As our source points out, they don't follow the same rules, they change in an entirely different way. We get shifts like mouse to mice or child to children. These words demand that you memorize their unique quirks, serving as a reminder that English is a living, breathing history.
But honestly, the most surprising rebellion of all comes from nouns that refuse to change whatsoever. We call these zero plurals. Whether you have 1 sheep or 100 sheep, the word stays exactly the same. No S's, no ES, absolutely zero alteration. They completely defy the very concept of visibly marking a word as plural. You have to rely entirely on context and the surrounding words to know exactly how many there are.
So, we've covered the absolute basics, the phonetic swaps, and the outright rule breakers. Now that you have this complete, structured overview, I want to leave you with this. English is a language patched together from dozens of other ancient languages. So the next time you write an email or have a conversation, look a little closer at the plurals you use. Are you following a neat, modern rule, or are you preserving a chaotic linguistic tradition from 1,000 years ago? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.